Hey everyone, I'm looking at the sessions, and every time that we speak to another person, another speaker, it's like an amazing wealth of value and knowledge. And this session is not going to be different. And in this session, Ashna is going to share with us the importance of emotional intelligence. We've been talking about so many different subjects, and right now, this is the first session about emotional intelligence in customer experience. And I'm super excited to welcome you to the stage, Ashna.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much, Natalie. As Natalie mentioned, I'm Ashna Patel, and I'm a manager of a customer success and support team here at Ascent Cloud. And I am going to talk about, I'm super excited about this topic. It's really near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence in customer success. But before we jump into that, a little bit about me. Who am I? I am you know, as I mentioned, I'm a manager of a customer success team, but I've had a customer facing roles or experience with customer facing roles for about 7+ years by now. Customer success, customer experience, account management, all of that different things. I am also a co-founder of CS Insider and CS Ladies that you might have heard about through LinkedIn and other places. And yesterday, actually, that the Success Hacker and Success Coaching announced their 2021 top 100 CS strategies and CS influencers, 25 influencers, and I was so humble and honored to be to be considered one of the top 25 influencers. So that's me. That's another title that I've gotten. On the other side, from heart, I am a storyteller. I'm a book nerd. You can see probably in the picture. I'm also a wife to this lovely, handsome gentleman here, and I'm a hiker, as I mentioned, storyteller. I love learning about cultural stuff, and coming from a different culture, I talk about that quite a bit, and also I also discuss quite a bit about customer success, as I mentioned, emotional intelligence, leadership, growth, and all the other things. And to find me on LinkedIn, I think that's the best way actually to find me on LinkedIn. And my name, just search for my name, Ashna Patel. I love talking to people. I love connecting with different individuals. So that is where you can find me.
Amazing, Ashna. Just so you know, we are not able to see your screen. So if you just want
Oh,
to try and one more time share.
that would help. How about now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. Here's a lovely picture, and of me and my husband, and how I'm a book nerd. Sorry about that a little bit, but I think I'm back on track. Okay, think about that, Natalie. Jumping on to the topic today, what is emotional intelligence? People talk about this quite a bit, and sometimes you hear it's a set of skill sets. It's a skill that you need to have, maybe a soft skill. To me, honestly, if you think about emotional intelligence as a whole, for me, it's a mindset. you know it is not something that you can teach. It is not something that I can make you watch a webinar and just have you sit down with you and teach you. It is literally a mindset. You need to feel within, like it needs to happen from internally. It's a purpose driven mindset. You need to have that mindset. That's what emotional intelligence is. And as you can probably find this over the internet and maybe in several books and everywhere, there's different parts of emotional intelligence elements, what they call. And few of them that I'm going to be talking about here and there in this session today is empathy, being able to understand others, putting yourself into others shoes. Self-awareness, knowing yourself, I think, before understanding someone else, before providing someone else an experience, or making their giving them a successful outcome. You have to understand yourself first, where you are, how you are, understanding it, being self-aware of situation, reflecting on the things that you do. And this is something that you actually, as an individual working in customer success or even in customer facing role, you're a lot of time you're doing a lot of these things in your day to day. So the other one is self reflection, social skills, ability to res- resolve conflict, ability to negotiate, the ability to just walk, talk with different members. I mean, there's a big social part of it, and which is also part of emotional intelligence. And then motivation, you could feel motivated for something, but for you to be able to bring that on, and actually provide that to someone else, motivate others, that's a whole nother level. And I think that's also part of emotional intelligence. And it's important that I mention all this today, because these are some of the factors that I think that you need to have as an individual, as an organization, as a department, as a team, for you to make your customers successful and give them the best experience. So why, I mean, I talked about this a little bit too, but diving in a little bit, why is it important? Why is emotional intelligence important? One, for self-management, as we mentioned, you got to understand yourself first before you understand others. And then the second is important because of relationship management, conflict resolutions. This is something that you do in your day to day. So if you think about it kind of like from a customer experience perspective, in your day to day, every customer, every experience that you're providing, it's somehow there's a, feelings are associated with it. And if you don't think about those, if you don't put those into accountability, it doesn't fall through for you. So relationship management, self-management, knowing yourself, knowing others, what are they feeling? Well, how are they feeling? What do they think about the situation? I find this, that they're successful. Are they really successful? Knowing and understanding that a little bit further. And then last is also important because to manage emotions. Emotions isn't I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about today, but it's a pretty important aspect, because a lot of time what happens is that you're so data driven. And again, we're going into a digital world, which is why I wanted to talk about this topic, to be honest. But we're in this digital world where we're relying on metrics, we're relying on data. And a lot of time you forget that there's human emotions attached to them. And that's what we need to manage. That's what we need to, an experience doesn't happen just by giving them a good product. An experience happen if when that product is giving them value behind it, because that's when you can find that emotion. They're feeling the value, that they're understanding the value that you're providing to them based on your solutions that you offer, based on the services that you offer. So emotions management, understanding your emotions, their emotions, and managing them. That's why emotional intelligence is important. So the question is, how does emotional intelligence relate to customer experience? And as I mentioned, there's a big part of it, and it's just by sentiment that I want to talk about. There is a feelings attached to every experience that you provide to your customers. This is why it's a mindset. It's when a customer receives something. So let me take an example. So you probably have heard about Airbnb. You know, Airbnb has this a tagline, that personalized experience, personalized user experience. And if you've ever been to, ever booked an Airbnb and went to an Airbnb, and when you personalize experience, what does it tell you? Their job is to give you that homey feeling away from the home when you book Airbnb and go and go to that location. I actually went to an Airbnb a couple months ago with my family. We booked it here nearby and into mountain area. We booked a cabin, and I'll tell you, I opened the door and I walk in, and I was it was like it was a 7 hours drive that we did, and then we walk into this Airbnb, and I felt like I was at home. I literally felt like I was at home, because everything was, it was really personalized. I didn't know how they knew about so much about me. They didn't ask me, but that's the whole part about experience. And you know what, that and why that happened, because they were targeting that sentiment, that feeling that was associated with it. They were targeting me feeling satisfied with the experience they were providing. So that's the feeling that's I'm talking. That's the feeling, that's the sentiment. And every time customer, whether you're small customers, bigger customers, every time you work with them, whether you're working through any of the cycles in your customer journey cycle, experience, and sentiment, they're go hand in hand. Every customer, just because they're using your product quite a bit, just because they're talking to you quite a bit doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're really getting the value out of it. It's the experience happens when they're satisfied. It's when you've provided the right value to them, and that's where the emotional intelligence comes in, because that's emotional intelligence can help you pull out that value from a discussions, can help you pull out that value from a session, and then that can come back to help you, relate to customer experience that you're providing. So how now diving even deeper from this, how can sentiments help you help us achieve this overall customer experience? To that, I'm going to tell you it's a team effort, and it takes the whole company. It's not just about, you're a team, you're in as for an individual, or just for customer success, which is something that we hear a lot about. Customer success folks are just born with soft skills, or they have, they go around with soft skills. I tell you, no, every individual in the company needs to have sentiment, needs to understand sentiments, needs to understand emotional intelligence, because customer experience doesn't happen just by one company. It happens, or actually it starts the minute your customer knocks your door. So when they're even in the pre-sale cycle, and then it's ongoing throughout every, different cycles that they go through in their lifetime of being your customer. And even if they churn at some point, for whatever reason, we know there's, different reasons why customers can churn. And even if they end up churning, experience can, still go on. Like, even if customer churns, it's like the experience is when you can tell, that even after churning for whatever reasons, you're still, good with from the relationship aspect of it. That's where emotional intelligence comes in place. So coming back to the topic, it's a team effort and it takes a whole company. So let's dive in a little bit into it. So let's talk about, a typical customer journey, like a customer life cycle. And, first starting with sales and marketing. At this stage, your customers are looking for a specific solution for their concern, for the use case, for their, they've got this issue that they need to fix. They just need help. They're looking for something. And first impression here really matters. If you start with empathy, if you're aware of their background, if you're aware of if you're doing your research at this time, and if you're starting with that pre-sales and marketing, if you're focusing on that, if you're using those emotional intelligence in it, customer is going to know that, they're going to feel that, they're going to get that experience in the beginning of the cycle, that, oh no, they actually do care about me, they actually understand what I'm feeling, they actually feel how I'm feeling. And that we get into the sales cycle and pilot testing. Sometimes that's what we call, depending on what type of industry that you're from. But this is where customers trying to figure out exactly what what needs to be delivered. Like, exactly, we're going through, they've got this one use case, they've got this, call it a SOW or whatever we want to call it, and that's kind of what we're trying to solve. And if here, listening to them is an important part. And that's where emotional intelligence comes. Because listening, what I mean by that is not just let me call you and then listen to what you're trying to say, but it's like listen to them when they're not even speaking. Understand the surroundings, being aware of the surroundings, reflecting on what's happening. If you're on a video call, if you're meeting them in the person, in the cycle. And this needs to happen throughout the sales cycle. You need to understand that, and bringing that value back, bringing that feedback back, and then working from that can create another type of experience that they understand. No, they know exactly what I need at this moment, and they know exactly how to help me fix it. That happens at the customer journey, the second cycle. Then we get into the customer success side of things. Here is where things, are in the customer success implementations, onboarding, project plan, adoption, and all that area, even retention. In this stage, all of that happens. This is where customer gets to, you get to discover, analyze, change, adopt, and evolve in this area. Customer success is not easy. Change is the second name of customer success, because a lot of times things, come in. Customers may sign up with something, then their needs change. You have to adapt, you have to evolve with it. And emotional intelligence help when you're aware of the situation, when you're reflecting on what they're doing, when you're getting to know your customers better, when you're asking the right questions, when you're understanding or trying to understand the purpose behind their needs. as they change, even after they change, that's where this comes in. So that's another part of it. Moving on, support product. Again, support product kind of comes in the life cycle throughout, the journey of a customer. You could provide them support at the beginning, also at the end, anytime. But think about it kind of like, your support and product, you can get so much of a feedback in a day-to-day basis from your customers that you can deliver back to, from support or to product. And these are stats, and I said here, stats and feelings, data and feelings. Don't just look at the data that you're getting back. How many cases are they creating? What kind of issues are they having? Look at the data. It's like, how are they really feeling about this? This particular customer is opening this many cases. This is how they're feeling about it. That kind of thing. So support and product also needs to understand the emotional part behind it. They need to understand that it's not just about closing a case or fixing a product or enhancing a feature. It's actually about making our customers happy. Is actually about giving them a best experience. So that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. And then lastly, moving on to the long-term success and churning. And as I mentioned here, it's just the beginning. Even when you churn, I always tell people that your customers may churn, your relationship should never churn. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in place. That you're keeping, even at the end of the stage, and even if they move on, you're keeping that, interactions with your customers, to continue to provide them the best experience. Now, seeing this a little bit in action, so how does this change of mindset works? Now, I have here the pre-sales, marketing, all that here on the bottom, because it's a 360 degrees. Everyone on board, it needs to be on board for them to be able to, provide the best experience. And emotional intelligence, comes in place where some of the areas here is treat them with empathy. Put yourself in their shoes. Just doesn't have to happen just for the customer success or support team. Everyone needs to do this. Pre-sale needs to put themselves in their shoes. Marketing needs to do the same, and create content based on that. Create your resolutions based on that. Personalize your messaging. We're getting into the digital world. We're really like talking about high touch, low touch, and all of those things, which is all great. But at the same time, don't forget about the human first concept. You are talking to the humans on the other side. You are working with the humans on the other side. We're not here to provide a good solution or good experience to bots or or just other digital things on the other side. We're here to provide that to actual humans on the other side. So personalize your message. Focus on current needs. And what that means is, what do you know about your customer and what they're going through right now? We're doing this campaigns, and we're helping customers achieve something. We're focusing on maybe targeting the mass, but how are you really helping them at an individual level? Going back to my Airbnb example, what are you doing to give them the personalized experience? And you can do that. And there's that another part comes in, as establishing an ongoing feedback loop. You're getting so much content from customers in each of these areas, whether it's sales, marketing, customer success, support, by tickets, customer success. We do a lot of surveys, CSAT, NPS, CES. Even in pre-sales, you can have some milestone surveys. At the beginning of the cycle, you're doing the surveys. At the end of the cycle, you're doing surveys. What do you do with this feedback? Get this feedback, ask for feedback, only get this feedback if you're going to do something about it. So work on the feedback and then put it back in the loop again. It should be 360 degrees. It shouldn't stop just because you got the answer, and then right at the end, go beyond a digital space and build connections. We are, again, I'm going to say, we are digitalizing everything, which is great. AI is in place. We'll talk about that. I love that. I'm so fascinated by AI, to be honest. But at the same time, can AI really teach you? Can AI really have a mindset? No, humans have a mindset. Emotional intelligence is a mindset. Customer experience happens because of a mindset. So that's where, we need to find a way to build connections. And you have multiple different ways to do that. You can do it through social media. You can do it through different areas, doing events and stuff. But we need to go even at the digital space. I'm saying going beyond a digital place, but even with that, you can build more connections through that. So at last, it brings me to this, that now, how can we use all of this information that I just talked about of emotional intelligence and for a long-term gain? How we can use to enhance customer relationships? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be able to provide a better experience if you have a good relationship with your customers. So how can we use this to play the long game? I'm going to give you this a good example here that I've put together here, and try to use this even in your day to day, personally, professionally, and all of that, and see how it goes. And I will always tell you, dive deeper than the data. Data is great, data is amazing, but there should be a combination of data and feelings. So diving deeper than the data, diving deep with the data. And so here's a little bit of a metrics that I've created. Is basically, you can see how I have awareness in the top, self-awareness, social awareness, me versus others, and then actions here in the bottom, self-management, and then relationship management. Take a conversation, whether it's in the pre-sale area, whether it's in the customer success area, whether it's in the product side of things, and put yourself in a customer's shoes to think about, what are they feeling about a feedback that they've given me? What are they feeling about these cases that they've created? What are they feeling about, the product not working in certain situations? How are they managing any of this? So that's where emotional intelligence, it's kind of comes in place. So it's, you take the data that you have and then you analyze it, to be able to get better feedback and solution out of it, and then provide a good solution. Self-awareness and self-reflections will always help you with a lot of things. Imagine you're actually having a conversation, a rough conversation with your customer, and right after the call you hung up, with after talking to them after 20-30 minutes, and you hung up the call, and then what if you had to just jump into another call? And then by the end of the day, when you're done with it, you kind of forgot about that rough conversation that you've had, or even don't remember exactly what happened with it. Now that's a one scenario. And now imagine if you can actually just take 5 minutes after that call and just sit down and write down just reflecting on that conversation. How could I have done this differently? What were they really mad about? What the heck was going on? My language. What was going on in their life that was kind of it, or in their position, that was really helping, that was making them so mad about situation. What is the purpose behind this? Why are they so frustrated? A lot of times, we forget that we're trying to help, others solve their problems. So our problems and our situation, our solution might just be a tiny part of theirs, but because that is something that we need to always remind them, that you're using our solution to make your life easier. You're using our products and services to make your life easier. And that happens when you're constantly asking and reflecting on a lot of these things. So that's where this diving deeper than the data comes in place. So that's a little bit about emotional intelligence and how it can really help with customer success. Now, also another thing that you can do is think about a lot of these amazing brands and how they personalize their messaging, how they personalize this marketing. Have you ever driven into a Southwest airline, or have you ever? Actually, I went to a Delta airline a couple months ago, and I think they had done an amazing job of the message that they do in the beginning. It's to make, when they talk about the safety occurrences and stuff, they had made a song about something. Somebody was and what I'm trying to say is, like, they're really caring about how the humans feel about a situation, the sentiments, the feeling aspect of it, and that's what they're targeting. You're targeting the feelings. You're not targeting just the, this is the actual, just the data, and this is what you're getting the data out of it. You're targeting value and sentiments at the end. um, my team comes into the picture sometimes, just because I'm just reading the comment here. The customer sentiment, feeling at the numbers, emotions are as important, if not more. That is so correct, Alejandra. So going back to emotional intelligence, and the experience. It's just an exercise, and it needs to happen in throughout your customer customer journey and the cycle. Whether it's in the beginning, whether it's at the end, we all as a company need to think about, emotional intelligence, that we can, what we can do. What are the due diligence that we can do as an individual to provide the best experience? And it is a team effort. It's a company effort. It doesn't happen by just uh, one department or an individual. Everybody plays part in it, because a customer success team could be providing best experience, but if your support team is only treating, helping the same customers as in like they're just helping with the case management, um, in customers eyes, they're not getting the best, the similar experience. They're getting a different type of experience. So it's a lot about everybody. That's why it's the talk about is like customer centric. Customer needs to be at the center of everything, and then you have everything around it. um, okay, so Stella has a question here. Let me see, what questions can I ask companies to vet them for whether they value EQ, and how they infuse EQ in their CS teams. um, a lot of time, I think it just feels like it really starts with, are they really putting customers in the center of their solutions. So I think that's kind of where also really help. It's in how they can infuse EQ in their teams. So when you are focusing, how are you getting feedback? What are you doing about this feedback? What type of conversation are your customers having? What are they really targeting? Are they really just targeting, you know, providing value as in providing, solution as in here's an issue and here's a solution to that, or are they targeting um, um, actual, resolutions? What value do I bring? Understanding the purpose behind it, that's where the EQ comes in place. Again, it's a good question, Stella, that EQ in their CS team. EQ, like I said at the beginning of the sessions, is not something that you can teach, but it is a mindset, and it has to happen with everyone in it throughout the way. So I think the question that you can maybe ask is, are they, do they have time in a day for them to reflect? What do they do? How are they managing their time, and how are they reflecting? And it's a lot more about being, aware of a situation, and then be aware of the social environment around you. So I think those are some of the things that you can ask.
Amazing, Ashna. Thank you so much for your expertise. It's been an amazing session. Looks like we have those are all the questions that we have, and we're right at our time. So, again, thank you so much. It's been our pleasure, and hope to chat with you really soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.